everyone, welcome to Danny Chats. This is episode number 6, and today I'm joined by Beth. Hi Beth.
Hi Danny, how are you?
I'm very good, how are you?
Pretty good.
And whereabouts are you calling from?
Michigan, St. Clair, Michigan.
Nice. So you've told me a tiny bit about your story, and you said that you weren't actually diagnosed with Wilson's disease. Do you want to tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, it was 22 years ago.
Yeah.
I had been in school to become a teacher, and I had been doing student teaching for a few months, and I had been getting tired. I was coming down with stuff very easily, but I was also planning my wedding. So I kind of attributed all of this to stress.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't anything major. So we got married July 3rd, and I had been to the doctor. I had moved to Kalamazoo to be with my husband at the time, which is across the state. And I'd been to the doctor a couple of times, and I had a kidney infection, and I was just coming down with all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And he tested my blood right before our wedding and said that my liver enzymes were a little high, but not too high to be concerned, and to come back and have them tested in a few weeks. And if you didn't hear from me, go ahead and have your wedding. Everything's great.
Yeah.
Well, I had my blood tested again, and I didn't hear from them. So I assumed everything was fine. Well, it wasn't. So we got married July 3rd. Honeymoon, I was sick most of the honeymoon. Came back, I was retaining water. My husband, we were talking about this last night, told me that I had moved in with him like 3 or 4 months prior to that. And he noticed that I was more depressed and down and stuff that I wasn't seeing. But so after from the wedding, I had so much fluid retention that I was having trouble breathing. So I went to the emergency room, and they diagnosed me with pneumonia, and which it wasn't, but they put me on antibiotics, which made things way worse for my liver. So I went back to my family physician, and he said, well, you know, your numbers were higher. And I'm like, oh, well, that would have been nice to know. But
Thanks. Paul.
Yeah. So he recommended that I see a gastroenterologist. So Dr. Hanovan, which I will forever be indebted to him. I went and saw him, and he walked into the room and took one look at me and said, you have a very sick liver. He had me all I had to do was show my hands to him, and he looked in between the skin in between your fingers, and he said, it was translucent, and he said, I can tell by just looking at you.
Yeah. Was you jaundiced at all? Or?
Not too bad. I mean, I did get jaundice eventually, but it was very gradual, so it wasn't something that people really noticed.
Yeah. And did you have, I think they're called like spiders here, or spider monkeys or something, but they're like little red patches on your hands or anything? No.
No, he said he had me hold up my hands, and he looked at the skin in between my fingers, and he said that it was translucent, and that was a total indication that your liver was failing. I'm like, okay. So he ended up doing a liver biopsy on me, and it came back that I had some mild cirrhosis, and he said that it was probably autoimmune hepatitis.
Yeah. Did you find the biopsy painful?
No, I don't remember a whole lot from back then, but I don't remember. I think I wasn't unconscious, but I think they gave me some good stuff. I don't remember it being that painful.
Yeah, I think I woke up slightly early because I think they sedated me as well, and I woke up early and it was just the worst pain. But then they gave something else, and I was back out again. And then when I came back around, I was fine.
Yeah, no, I don't remember it being painful. But so we had all sorts of questions for him about the autoimmune hepatitis, like could we have children? And he said, oh, no, your numbers right now, you'll probably need a transplant 20 years from now. He started me on steroids and said, as long as you take these medicines, you should be fine. So, but he said, I do want to get you hooked up there's 2 hospitals in Michigan who do transplants, University of Michigan and Henry Ford Hospital. And Henry Ford Hospital is in Detroit, which is closer to where I live. So I chose there. And he happened to know one of the gastroenterologists there, and he recommended her and said, just, get in the system so that they can track you. So we were coming back over here on this side of the state for a wedding anyway. So I made my appointment, and this was, I think, from being tested with Dr. Hanovan to being at Henry Ford Hospital, I think it was like a 3-week span. And in those 3 weeks, my numbers went bad enough to be listed immediately and be top of the list. And I came home, I did all this testing at Henry Ford, and they gave me all the psychological tests, and I passed all of those. So I felt horrible, but my mind was okay. But by the time I got home, I went completely like Looney Tunes. Like my mom caught me unraveling all the toilet paper in the bathroom, and like I was just out of my mind.
Doing crazy stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and Dan said, my husband Dan was telling me I was saying the weirdest stuff. Like nothing I was saying was making sense. So they called the hospital right away. And that's when they said, the hospital was like, we were going to call you anyway because her numbers are horrible and she needs to be listed right now.
Yeah.
So I went back into the hospital, and I only had to wait, I think, 2 or 3 days before liver became available. And the first liver they found for me, however, wasn't, my surgeon did not want to put it in me. It was an older gentleman, and he said, no. So I ended up with the liver of a 16-year-old young man who passed away in a car accident. And so I didn't find out till later. Like my transplant was supposed to be 12 hours. It was 6. Like the surgeon said, everything was
super
perfect.
Quick.
Yeah, he said it was as well as it could possibly go. So I was only in the hospital maybe 5 days, 5 or 6 days.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. So it was my first post-op appointment at the hospital after being home. And they sat me down and they were like, we just got the pathology back on your liver, and it was filled with copper. Yeah. And so they said, we don't think you had autoimmune hepatitis. We think you had Wilson's disease.
Yeah. But when I had my liver transplant, they obviously tested that for copper as well. And they said that for me, because I'd been on tablets, obviously they said that had been working. It was only because I'd had so much damage from when I was younger.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just didn't re-heal.
Yeah.
So that's bad. So, and then obviously you've been put on like the anti-rejection tablets and everything. Like, what other tablets were you on after?
Well, they started me out on, I was on high doses of steroids right after, and then they eventually weaned you off of those, which was great because that was
just say, I mean, that's where I think I had most of my side effects from was the steroids. So I had, night terrors. I'd never had sleep paralysis before, but I had that. And lack of sleep as well. I was struggling to sleep.
Yeah. When they started weaning me off, I went into a deep depression. Like I never knew what people talk about clinical depression, like what is that, and now I know what that is. Like I couldn't get off the couch. Yeah. And it got to the point where my husband was calling the doctor and they said, oh, didn't we tell you that when you're weaned off of steroids, you could, and we were like, well, no one shared that information. Good to know.
Yeah. Thanks. So,
I went into a pretty deep depression until I was totally clear of those. But now I'm on a minimal, like they started me on Prograf at first and I got horrible tremors from that. So they took me off of that medication. And I was on cyclosporin for a very long time. But then when we did try to have children way back, and they took me off of that and put me on, I can't remember when it is they switched me, but they switched me off cyclosporin and now I'm on rapamune or sirolimus. It was a newer drug mainly because cyclosporin was wrecking my kidneys.
Okay.
And they said, if you take cyclosporin much longer, you're going to need a kidney. So let's not do that. So rapamune is a medication mostly for kidney transplant patients, but it's worked really well for me.
Yeah, so. Good. It's sometimes a bit worrying with all the side effects that come with the drugs. But I haven't
had too many. Well, I've had a few side effects of the rapamune, nothing major. I'm also on Imuran. That was the other medication they put me on. So I've been on both of those drugs for about 15 years.
That's good. And what, out of interest, what scar have you got? What sort of cut did they do? Did they do the Mercedes?
They did the Y. Upside down Y.
Down and then round. Yeah, they call it a Mercedes thing because that's what I was expecting. That's what I got told. But I've literally just got it looks like a graph. It's straight down and it goes along.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. And my frame is very small. Like I wasn't all that small at the time because of all the water I was retaining.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
my frame is so small that the surgeon said he was afraid he was going to break my ribs when
Really.
with the retractor. Yeah. But
It's amazing that you were out in 5 days as well, especially if you were, I mean, really ill before. Because I think I was sort of lucky in the fact that although I was ill enough to need the transplant, it wasn't like some people I've spoken to, and it was like I need a transplant right away. So for
yeah.
me, I could maintain fitness before and stuff like that. But you obviously must have been quite ill, and so your recovery is really fast. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, but I didn't really get deathly ill until right at the end. Like they were really surprised about that because she did ask me after. She goes, "Okay, we need to talk about like the last couple of years. Like how have you been feeling?" And she goes, "Let me guess." She goes, "At one point you were really trying. You lost a lot of weight." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "And let me guess, you were kind of trying to lose weight." I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Then you didn't really notice." She goes, "You didn't lose weight because you were exercising. You lost weight because you were sick."
Yeah.
So it was kind of a 2-year process that it was so gradual that I didn't really notice.
Yeah,
So
that's what I've always said is when I went for my doctor's appointment, the general checkup, I didn't expect them to say you need a liver transplant now because like you say, I felt fine, but now I've
right,
had it, I can definitely say that I wasn't fine.
right. Oh, no. I felt immediately after the surgery, it was like, oh, this is what normal is. Like I just had been living in such a not normal state for so long that,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you told me you have 2 kids. Were they like, obviously they know all about it and everything?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they know about it. They don't ask many questions. You know, they when they were really little, we took them with me to. I only have to go see my Henry Ford doctors once a year, and we would take them with us. But now they don't have an interest.
No.
Yeah, they're
Have
16
you
and 12, so
have you had them tested for Wilson's?
no, they're adopted.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we don't have to worry about it. My sister did at the time of that diagnosis. She had a friend who was a nurse who had her do this creatine test, whatever this testing was. It wasn't the genetic test, but all of her numbers were normal. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it seems to be as well. It seems to be more prevalent in females than males.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Incredible that you're doing so well. And that was 20. How many?
It'll be
20,
22 years in August. We
20
got married July 3rd, and my transplant was August 3rd.
yeah. And I suppose you haven't tried to reach out to the donors family because I've
I
spoken to people in
did.
America and it's harder there. It seems.
I did. I wrote a letter, and apparently he saved 4 lives, and I was the only one that reached out. They did send me a letter in return with a picture of him, which I still have framed. And I did talk to his mom on the phone a few times. It was kind of an awkward situation. His brother was still having a really hard time
Yeah.
dealing with his death. So it was kind of a touchy situation. So I kind of lost touch with her, but for a while there, we had a few phone conversations.
It's
So
very
that was,
very hard. It's very hard to know what to do, isn't it? Because in my writing the letter, I wanted to wait a year. One, because I wanted to have something to tell them, and two,
yeah.
I just thought they might need some grieving time. But
Yeah.
some people write straight away, and that might help with the grieving process if you have a letter. It's just
Yeah.
hard to know what to do.
I don't think there's any right answer, one right answer. But what we do in the States is we write and to the gift of life, and the gift of life gets the information to there's no direct contact.
Yes, same here. I think we write to the hospital, and then the hospital send it on if the donor's family wish to receive letters. And then I suppose they send a letter back, and then eventually there could be a point to meet up.
That's how it was with us. Yeah.
And out of interest, is your husband and your children now on donors list or anything like that?
Yes, my husband is. He had a very dear friend who passed away, about 20 years ago from leukemia. And so he's been on the donor list for the transfusion stuff for a long time. So yeah.
Yeah. Because they've just changed the rules over here to the fact that now you are on the donors list unless you opt out.
Okay.
before it was an opt-in system, so you had to say you want to be on there. Yeah, but again, it still comes down to the family of the person that's passed away. They can decide ultimately. So for anyone watching this and you want to be a donor, please talk to your family and friends.
Yeah. We have it. We can have it on our driver's licenses here.
Yeah.
You can have it actually put on there that you're a donor, but ultimately it is the family's decision.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's really good. Really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, any plans for anything coming up this? Well, I suppose you're all in lockdown, the same as us, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm trying to teach first grade right now from my computer, which is not easy.
Yeah, that's because all our schools are off, so there's no teaching. It's all homeschooling. So were you just sort of sending stuff out?
Sending stuff out. I try to meet with a few students at a time. We have lunch together on the computer. So,
nice.
But it's not the same.
No, of course not. Of course not. You can't make it back. And how long have you been? So you said you were studying for your teaching, then you obviously finished it. Was that after everything had gone on? Was that something you had to get back to?
I had just finished everything when I got sick, and then I spent about a year doing, I did some substitute teaching because I wasn't quite sure, because I mean, this was all foreign to me. Like, I was like, I don't know, can I be a teacher? I don't. And they told me, like, I love 2 and 3 year olds. Preschool's like my favorite age. And they said, oh, no way. So they said kindergarten, which is 5-year-olds on up, would be okay. And so I ended up teaching kindergarten for 5 years, a year after transplant. I got that job, and then I've been teaching first grade for like 17 years.
Why was it? Did they say no to the youngers because of chance of infection and things like that? Yeah. Because obviously your immune system's lower and.
Yeah, and they warned me. They said you're going to get sick all the time, but I really haven't. I've been really fortunate that every once in a while I'll catch a bug, but not nearly as much as they thought I would. They were kind of amazed about that.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And have you spoke to or met anyone else that's had transplants out there?
Just a few people. Not, when I would go down to the hospital early on, there would always, when we had clinic times, there would be a lot of people down there, and we would chit chat. But there's not a whole lot around here.
Yeah.
In my area. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something that people just sort of tell you either, is it? Unless you're doing something like this, and then people always message me.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me and sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome.
Is there anything else that you wanted to necessarily bring up or say?
No, I just wanted to thank you for doing this, because Wilson's is really, people just don't know about it. And I think it's a really great thing that you're doing to make more people aware of it.
Yeah, I think hopefully it'll just be, if you get that diagnosis, it's really worrying, isn't it? Well, you didn't quite have that, but and you don't know what it is. Then the only information you have is just sort of maybe some reading, and any kind of reading is always the worst possible scenario.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to try and get as many people as I can on almost like a database, so that people can say there's still a nice future ahead.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.